Welcome, everybody. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Thank you for joining us. This is a fun week. It's kind of light this week, but then there's still a lot of things that have been happening. So thank you and welcome to everybody for coming and joining us. And we're just going to go over a few things that have happened this week. But I have Salma Abukar, Ali Jules is here with me, AP, Blaine. Um, is that it? Yeah, that's it for us today. I think we're going to have it light, but we just want to cover a few things that I think will be interesting to you all and definitely interesting to us. But welcome and make sure you please feel free to leave any messages, questions, products, plugs in the chat below. Go ahead and use that as your space. And we're just going to go over some of these things quickly and make sure you show some love. Let me know if everything's okay with the emojis. Hit that heart at the bottom so that I know that everybody's okay. But thank you and welcome. Salma, you want to say hello?
Hi everyone, happy Friday. I'm really excited to be here. Lots to talk about today. We've got Adobe, Video, Gig and Fi 3. We're also going to be covering Rabbit, the new AI wearable, and I know that Midjourney has dropped a new feature, the Surf Random, and finally Morph Studio. But yeah, happy Friday everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, there's some things that have just popped up even in the last few minutes that I've been made aware of. And thank you, Angry Penguin, for showing us Web Sim. So we're going to bring that in there too, because it does seem very interesting. And let me see if we can get a chance to talk about the Meta glasses, multimodal capabilities. None of us have it, I don't think, but we can still discuss it a little bit. And then when Matt is back next week, we will be able to talk about it more. But thank you all. And let me see here. Let me check the notes. We want to talk about Adobe today, first of all, because they had quite a bit of news with the Firefly 3 image generator with improved photorealistic capabilities. It's pretty good. And how Firefly is now even more integrated into Photoshop and how there's a lot of new features that you can use Firefly within Photoshop for generative AI to expand the images and things like that. Who on the panel has used it much this week? Anyone? Oh, Blaine, please. And
Yeah,
Ali, feel
yeah,
free.
sure. Okay. Yeah, so it's kind of fun because if you guys remember back when Adobe first released the first beta of with generative AI, it was about exactly a year ago. And that's when you started seeing all the posts from people that were doing the generative kind of out painting, right? And there was a lot of, and it like blew everybody's minds. It still kind of does. I remember seeing posts, and I did a couple myself on just taking old like CD covers and albums and record covers, and then expanding those out and letting AI predict what that would look like. And it felt so game changing. That was about almost exactly a year ago. So what's really nice, I guess, I've been a Photoshop, I guess user, not like professionally. I'm not like a graphic artist or anything, but I've just used it ever since probably version one. Um, I've had a Mac for a really long time in my life, and so I've just kind of used every version of it since. And the really nice thing with having Firefly built in is like you'd expect. It's right there. So when you like open up the beta, instead of just having an option to leverage some sort of generative fill or some sort of generative remove or adjust your canvas size or something like that, you now have a button that lets you generate an image, and you can when you press that, it brings up a dialog that shows you some of the similar settings you get from the web UI from Firefly. But the fact that it's just in there, like with whatever you're working on, seems like that'll kind of be really convenient. And I was testing it out with some work projects that we were working on where we have I had some actual images that I generated in Midjourney, and they were actually from months ago, but we were trying to get we were testing out the style the ability to create your own styles and share those and everything months ago. Well, I had a few of those on my drive, so I threw in one of those as a style reference within Photoshop, because that's one of the options within the new beta. When you enable the image generation, you can either have it pick a style or whatever, but you can also just give it an image to reference, and then you can prompt it, right, just like any other image gen. And it did a really good job. I was surprised that it took the style of, it was like this artistic kind of digital art style, and kept the colors very similar, and the actual way the model, the kind of the woman that's in this video that we're creating, what she looks like and everything looks pretty similar. So I was pretty impressed.
Well, I was actually on a conference call with for Adobe before it dropped, and I do have some notes I'll go over really quickly. I didn't get a chance to use it, but they basically added 8 new generative AI features. Well, 6 new generative AI features, and one or two of these others that are not. I apologize. I'm not sure why I have so much background noise. I'm so sorry. But I just a quick rundown of like the highlights that they were talking about is that you can now use the reference image like Blaine just said, and you can access that from the generative fill panel or the properties panel, and you can generate images in there alone without just generative fill. I think that's a big difference too, and that's from the side panel or from the edit tab on the top menu. And that's also, this is only in the Photoshop beta app, not in the regular Photoshop app, I'm pretty sure. And you could generate similar items from the images that are generated within there from Firefly. There's an option to do that. You can generate a background, so you can remove the background with one click and from the generative fill toolbar. And then you can also generate a background, or you can import another background. And you can hover, if you hover over the button on the top left of the generated images in the properties panel, you can enhance the image. So that's another new feature. And then you can enhance details with it doesn't increase resolution, and you can only use that feature if you have a selection of images already. So if you've generated images and it has a selection of them, then you can click to enhance also. So that's my quick notes there. Hopefully, maybe if that's helpful, if anyone is using the Photoshop beta app. But Ali, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. What's your experience been?
Yes, so Photoshop is one of the Adobe products that I use the most, and I actually reduced my, sorry, Adobe Creative Cloud just to cover the Photoshop and Adobe Express, whatever it has, like the smaller bundle, because I wasn't really using any of the other features, nowhere near as much as I was, and I can get away with it now. But I have been using it. I haven't really used it in painting as much with it. So what I did is I did a test of simply using Firefly in its native format. And I literally wanted to just focus on the photographic results at this particular test that I did. And I posted about it earlier during the week. And it certainly has improved from Firefly 2 to Firefly 3. There are still issues that I noticed here and there, but as in an overall, there is improvement. How great of an improvement is it? That's probably a subjective result. And I also focused on just on a person or people, basically. So I can tell you that I'm hearing that if you do animals or other things than people, that those results look great. From what I'm hearing from the community, the photo realistic portrait type images, again, they were hit and misses, and some of the images looked more like where they almost, the person that was in the image was like planted on it, so that the background was something that you could take out and replace, which you probably can, right? So it didn't look as natural as in some other places. But certainly, the better that you can prompt, as is with anything else, the better results you get in general. So I am able to get, and not to say that, I prompt perfectly. I oftentimes try to prompt imperfectly just to see what I get as well. But You can also get good results with Firefly 2, but you can also get them with 3, right? But in general, the skin texture and things like that has improved for 3 versus 2.
Well, that's good to know. Yeah, I noticed that too with where it looks like the background they're put onto the background somewhat. If you have something other than just a natural outdoor type of thing or something in the anything that's a slightly abstract, it looked like, but it's a big improvement for some things because Adobe is always the Firefly has done well with natural things like animals, nature, and people. Food also is really good, excels at that. But I guess that's a good. We at least we have more options and more tools to use. I do like a lot of the things that Express has. The in the mobile app too. They have the mobile beta app, and that's pretty cool because you can animate from your voice. You can upload audio and things like that just to do some simple like 2D animations. So and they have some preset characters and things like that in there. But I often forget about it, but there's a lot of different tools with Express and being able to take it from a Firefly straight into Express helps if you're not going to be using Photoshop. And I don't use Photoshop much, so I think that's helpful.
Yes, and that's something that I noticed. And actually, when you're in the dashboard or Firefly, you will sometimes get a prompt where it says, hey, you want to do something with this in Adobe Express, which is great, where you can add a lot of different things like add text or create it and make it more of some type of a advertisement or marketing material or whatever. So I thought it was very, very convenient. And so basically, if you're using anything in the Adobe ecosystem, it is very easy and natural for you to, well, to a degree natural to move from one to the other and then utilize the image generation. So I think that works very well in that whole ecosystem.
And AP, I think you were saying last week that it's kind of like it is introducing it to the last people or the more people that will get a chance to it'll be their first time experiencing AI or using Gen AI. I think we were talking about that last week and Blaine too. What do you think about it?
Um, yeah, I think that uh, yeah, to be honest, I'm not really too excited about like the Adobe stuff. I'm more excited about we are talking about the Adobe stuff right now, right?
Yeah, but we can
Yeah.
also. What about the video gig again? We can even talk about
Yeah,
that
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Kind of interesting, but
Yeah, I think like the Adobe stuff's really cool, but yeah, me personally, I'm not too excited about it just because like you can't really get all the knobs and features that you can with like Comfy UI and like the open source tools. Um, Sorry, there's a plane passing right above me, but yeah, we can hop into the next one if you're interested in that.
very cool. But we so video. Well, we were but to finish off on the Adobe, the new generative AI features that are already going to be. It's like they broaden out the ecosystem of those tools that a lot of people that wouldn't normally use AI art generators might use. So I guess it would introduce, or not just AI art, but just using generative AI within these tools. So I guess it'll probably maybe expand a little further out into the business world. Um, Ali, you weren't here last week, but I think we were talking about that. How I think Taylor was talking about how for marketing and um, different types of reasons people might be using that for clients and for their work.
Yes. What specifically? I can answer
Yeah,
to a lot of the different marketing because that's been my background for 20 years in marketing in various different realms with it. And one of the bigger issues right now with all of this is that it's quite convoluted, right? So there's many different things that you have to use to accomplish something. Now we are moving towards a place where it's going to be easier, but for many, and I'm specifically talking about more perhaps people that don't have the resources to have departments and teams, but they basically maybe rely on some, trying to tinker and figure it out themselves or hire somebody. And then it can become quite convoluted from jumping from one thing to the other to the other. And perhaps, let's say you're on Midjourney, but then you want to do something else with it, or do you take that to Photoshop? Do you put it in Canva? What do you do, right? So there's steps to go from one place to another, and some are more professional versus others. But then, for example, I also am not necessarily all super pumped about Adobe, for various reasons. But if you're already in that ecosystem, it works, right? But I don't necessarily think that their image generation, for example, is the best right now. I could say the same thing about Dolly or some of the other things. But so, like, where do they kind of mesh together? And that's the challenge that I feel we are facing right now, where we're just kind of tinkering with these different things and trying to pull these things together. But if you look at it as some other, a business person doing this, they're like, whoa, now I'm going to have to use 6 different things and try to figure this out. It's a lot. It's super overwhelming. So we are kind of getting used to this in our, circles as we are here, that we're kind of, following this, like the breadcrumbs from one to the other, and we're figuring it how it works, but it's still pretty cumbersome. And yet it's still faster than perhaps it would be if we hired somebody else to do it, or had to have a lot bigger budget. So there's many different nuances here from a variety of different things, but I am hoping for the day soon, perhaps, that it's going to be more streamlined and easier even for people to kind of accomplish the whole workflow instead of just bits and pieces here and there.
That's a good point. Go ahead, AP.
Yeah. Oh, how do I take my hand down? Okay, cool. There. So yeah, the thing that like has been standing out to me and like making me just think is Billowall had a tweet this week about the balloon head VFX video, right? That came out from OpenAI Sora. And so like when people saw that, everyone's like, "Damn, Sora's gonna change the world! Like this thing is crazy." And it turns out there was a lot of VFX comp like done behind the scenes. Sorry, I don't know why there's a bunch of planes flying over me right now, but yeah, like it's just like super interesting, right? Like what is the actual like use of these tools if you're just gonna like use the traditional VFX tools anyways? Like are they really what they promise to be? I know we're like early in the stage of the tools being used, but it's just like the hype is being cast out way more than where they are. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point about. I forgot about that as a topic, even with Bilal posting about that with the Sora video. And then you wonder, yeah, like how many other videos were edited, for certain effects. And we don't really know. And people are waiting for that, thinking, I don't want to use other tools because soon Sora will be out. But I don't really hold out a lot of hope thinking that it'll be affordable or accessible to a lot of us. Go ahead, Allie.
I had the same thoughts about Sora before this came out, and I was kind of questioning it, having the skeptic hat on, thinking that maybe this is just kind of the rosy. We're looking at it from the hype perspective with the rose-colored glasses on, and then I was hearing, well, basically from Midjourney office hours, where the source was, that it came up that, a few things to remember. One is that whenever somebody wants to show you something, there's usually a reason behind it. And what are we always or typically seeing? We're seeing the best possible results. We don't really know how many takes it took to run these things and how long it took and what is the cost of it. And perhaps there's a reason why a company, any company, I'm not just saying OpenAI, is showing something like this. Perhaps it's because they are looking for financing, for investors, whatever it is, right? So there's more to this than just what we think, like, oh my gosh, when are we going to get it? When we're going to get it? Where in reality, this could be far off and it may not even work. So I definitely fall into the category of, okay, let's wait and see. And I'm not going to get too excited about it because there's a lot of stuff happening in front of our eyes right now that we can use and generates good results. But then the other things about the Sora is that the word out on some street, I guess in San Francisco or wherever, is that yes, it's actually insanely expensive and that it isn't actually as good. So, these are nitpicked results. And as we now know, there's also actually, more traditional work being done, and it's not all just typed in text prompt and then you generate something like this.
Yeah, because people shouldn't lose sight on there are a lot of really these tools have been making amazing advances, and I don't think Sora is the only one that it might be able to. It maybe it's easier to use in a lot of ways, and but I struggle to think that it'll be something that the regular consumer can just use, especially if they've been going to Hollywood and speaking to like trying to get that type of user. That doesn't seem like it'd be on our level, but maybe I hope so. But either way, there's still a lot to use, and in the meantime, and the technology is really improving. So since we're talking about the video Gigagan from Adobe is what it's going to upscale. It can upscale what eight up to 8 times, upscale, upsample, and it's it enhances somewhat, right? Or does it? Can we think about it like as a magnific for video, or is it more topaz?
I I personally think it's a little closer to Magnific. I mean, I'm a huge Topaz fan. Don't get me wrong, but the and again, these are examples, right? The ones they posted on their website. This is heavily curated, probably best case scenario, just like Sora, right? But if it's able to do what it's showing, maybe we should pin it. I could try pinning that here in a second, just so people can kind of see what we're talking about. It's kind of nice because they do, you know how Javi put the little slider thing where you can move the little thing and see the before and after, but they do it on video, right? So you can watch the video play, and it kind of blows my mind because they're showing examples of video that's like 128 by 128 pixels, which for anybody that I'm sure everybody on this call knows how low res that is, right? I mean, that's like cell phone from the 90s, like level quality or something. But then it's upscaling it to 1024 by 1024. And I think, when you look at the upscaled version, it just looks like HD video sort of almost. And it's if they're able to deliver even half that, I think it's going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's a good point because it took me a few takes to look at it, and I was trying to figure out which one was the enhanced, or I didn't really understand what it did because the video that they were showing with the baby, it looked so it just wasn't very high quality to begin with.
Well,
So
and I think maybe part of the problem is a lot of the examples were shown on X, right? And it compresses the video down, right? But if you go, and I'll put this in the comments, if you actually go to the GitHub .io site for it, they have, especially from your computer, if you can, because then you can look at it on a bigger screen. They have large examples that, I mean, it's like night and day difference between the original and the upscaled.
so anybody else have any comments on that? AP?
Yeah, no, yeah, same as before. Like it's one of those things where they show you what it can do, and it's like, where's the thing? Where's the product? But yeah, I get it though. It's like really cool. And I'm looking forward to when it does come out. I think it'll be very helpful. Yeah, that's definitely like something I've seen people really asking for is like a really good cheap video upscaler. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true. We don't know how cheap it will be either, but
I,
it's
I think
interesting.
the one more thing I'll add, I think at least what it does for me is it kind of shows, even if it's not to this level yet, or maybe it's expensive, it kind of shows where we're going to be able to go with this kind of thing. And for me, being a dad of kids that are kind of either in college or heading that way, to be able to go back and look at, footage from, when they were really little on my crummy camera that I had that was real low res, and then upscale that potentially, and bring in new detail to bring that more to life. I mean, that's pretty awesome. I mean, as an example, one thing that was kind of jarring, I was watching the other day. I was just flipping through YouTube or whatever, and I don't know if there's any people that watch Dude Perfect on here. But they did their 15 anniversary video, and they recreated their original video. And if you've ever seen their trick shots video, they're pretty insane. But they were doing these shots side by side, and you could see. I mean, it was just obvious the camera quality of from now versus 15 years ago when they were shooting this in their backyard, and the thought of being able to take footage from that era even and upscale it is exciting to me.
No, that's a good point because I have a picture like that right beside me now because one of my sons he'll be 18, 19 in 2 days, and I have this old picture from my cell phone back then, and he's blowing out candles as a toddler, and it's so grainy, and it's just like, geez, I was trying to edit it with my iPhone now, trying to so I can send it to him. But yeah, the type of things that they'll have available to him, it's amazing. Wow. All right. Well, I will move on. So 5.3. Um, Microsoft introduced that large language model that runs on a cell phone. And Blaine, did you said you got a chance to run that?
I did, and it doesn't have to run on cell phone. I just did that because the parameter, the it's like 4 billion parameters or something, so it would actually operate pretty quick on there. And it's, I mean, I tested it some. I tend to, when I'm using an LLM for anything, I want to get like the best quality and the best response I can possibly get. So it's kind of fun to play around with some of these smaller ones that if you're in a pinch and you're not connected to the internet, to know that if you need to talk to an LLM about something, you can. But for my work and for, anything I'm doing for productivity, I'm probably going to default to, one of the bigger ones out there. And but it's still fun to test, llama 3 and some of those things, as well as obviously the gold standards and some of those. But it's, if nothing else, it just proves that as the training data gets better and the amount of resources and money that some of these big companies like Microsoft and Meta and others are dumping into these models, and then they're open sourcing them. I mean, I'm a huge open source fan. I know AP is, and many others on this call. So I'm all for that. Being able to kind of empower me to do stuff on my own and run locally on my own machine.
So it sounds, yeah, from looking at the chatter online, it's yeah, kind of like people that are already interested in running it locally, they're pretty excited about it. But then I see a lot of back and forth between it not comparing well to Llama 3. But I'll stay out of that discussion because that's a little bit too far out for me because I haven't been really, other than just using like Llama 3 on different apps and on Meta AI. But I do like to compare the results and see, but I haven't been running like code and having it, debug anything or solve any complex problems. So I can't speak to that. But what do you, so is it 5.3? Am I saying it right? Is it pi or
I
phi?
think it's
It's
Phi
5.3.
3.
Yeah, it looks like a P. Is that able to? Is it on available on some of these tools like where the playgrounds and different things
Yeah,
where you can use it?
yeah. I don't have a full list. I'd have to search for it where it's available, but I have seen it. There's a couple, even like iPhone. There's at least one iPhone app I know because I follow them on Twitter or X, where they just announced like the day after it was released that they've added it to their kind of online hosted library where users can go and just click a button and download it. Um, I will I will put that in the comments. I'm trying to remember because I was trying to figure out which app that was over on the call because I have like three different iPhone apps that do LLM. I want to one or two of them is really terrible and the other one was good, and I don't want to recommend the wrong one.
Well, that's really I really like these a lot of these tools and that they're able to jump on it so fast. Like I saw Easy Peasy, they added it to their platform and Llama, not 5.3, but Llama 3, Mixtral, all those different ones, Poe app and the Perplexity Lab, Replicate Lab, and I think Typing Mind. I use that sometimes. They have quite a few on there, so there are a lot of options for people. If in Hugging Chat, of course, if you want to use these different models just to see, I think that some of them are better for certain things. And Ali, I know you've tested a lot extensively, but for certain types of information that you're going to get, like using whether you're going to use Claude and which Claude 3 to use versus Llama 3. Go ahead, API. AP. Almost called you API.
I know. API. No, I think like the real powerful thing about like these smaller models. And by the way, Apple, I heard is either they have open source 3 models or they're going to open source 3 models very soon. Is word on the street. but yeah, the potential of these models is like you run them locally, right? And ideally you run them in your phone. You're on airplane mode. Maybe that's like a good use case. I really like ChatGPT on my phone, so maybe I don't see the use case there. But what I think is really cool is on these like on device AI native hardware, and I think that's where it gets really exciting. Like the Humane AI pin, I think we talked about this last week, really low latency or really high latency, right? Like takes quite a while to get a response back. Same thing I'm seeing with like the Rabbit. Even though they try to optimize it and try to do some caching, make it faster, I think it still has that like delay. So I think, there's going to be a future where you have these LLMs that are, small and mighty, and you don't necessarily need to have them plugged into like Wi-Fi to be running. Because the reality of it is like, sometimes you go out, you're on the subway, you're on a plane, and you can't have internet access or 5G access or 4G access, whatever you have. So I think that's the power of it. And Apple seems to very much so be trending towards building out the ecosystem for like on-device inference. And yeah, Phi is Microsoft's attempt at taking it that way. And I think we're going to see more and more of that becoming the case. So I'm excited for that for those reasons.
That's a good point. Bringing up like not having internet access and just being able to do what you want. And still go ahead and use that. But thank you for bringing that up. And hey, Rob, thanks for joining us. I know you have some experience with some of these.
I
Uh,
do, but I just joined the space, so I
oh
don't
yeah.
know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, we were talking about Phi 3, and that was the thing that people were on this week versus what Llama 3 last week, although we're still talking about that too, right? And compare, but what are your thoughts on
Right.
how have what's the point of having like Phi 3 and using what do you do with them?
Yeah, let's talk about all of these models. And I think the whole news with the rabbit coming out and the humane AI pin are also related to this. And so we're entering into a new period in AI where there's kind of like two classes of models. There's the ones that are small and optimized to be able to run on local hardware that regular people can afford. And that's stuff that runs on your phone or on your little rabbit that's like the size of a Game Boy or on your Humane pin. And then there are larger models that are running in these like supercomputer clusters. And these are things like GPT-4 and Claude, and yeah, the ones that are running in the clusters also have different sizes, right? So with Claude, we have ranging from the little haiku that's fast and cheap to the big powerhouse of Opus that's incredibly expensive. Um, and uh, and so why would you want a small, inexpensive model running locally when you can get a much better model running on the internet? And the answer is privacy and control of your data and access, in an instant without having to be connected to the internet and things like this. And so um, and costs in some ways as well, right? Like I don't want to have to pay the large token cost of for like a really big model when I'm trying to get is a fairly easy answer. Like let's say I'm walking my dog and the dog eats a plant. I want to take a picture of that plant and ask an AI, what's this plant and is it poisonous to my dog? Like let's say it's a weird looking thing and I'm just like kind of concerned. I may not need Claude 3 Opus at like $75 per million tokens or whatever to like answer that. My little rabbit or my humane pin might be able to answer that. And so I think that um, these models have an interesting way that they're going to integrate into our society. It's going to allow things like your car to be smart and to be able to process information. Like imagine your car that has cameras and has some self-driving mode encounters a situation that's unclear, some traffic symbol, some person crossing, something like that. And then imagine it's able to prompt itself to logic through what should I do in this situation that's ambiguous? And then kind of come to an answer and then return that answer to the driving controller and take the right move versus the driving that we have now. It's sort of like the language model has to know on its first try what to do, or it's going to do the wrong thing. It can't reason through anything. So lots of like cool applications for this technology. I'm quite excited for what it might do, but I think right now, anyone who tries these things is going to be disappointed. If you buy a Rabbit R1 and you go around taking photos of things that your dog ate and asking it what's going on, it might not be accurate. It might not know if they're actually poisonous. It might hallucinate. Like, we're seeing the humane pin getting destroyed in certain reviews, and it's because people are comparing this to like GPT-4. And it's not fair. GPT-4 is run on a cluster of supercomputers. It's a huge model. There's no, like, you couldn't run it on your laptop at home. You couldn't run it on your gaming PC with the decked out with the best hardware. Like, it's too big. And so to be like, oh, well, look at how bad the humane pin is compared to Chat GPT. Well, like, what were you expecting from something that you could wear on your chest like you're in Star Trek and you're just gonna like tap it and talk to your crewmates or whatever? Um, so I think that we need to calibrate our expectations and really understand what we're like, uh, that it can be a game-changing model from Apple to release this into the open source for it to run on small devices and it for not to be like the Albert Einstein of models. It's not trying to be. It's trying to be that assistant that can help you in your day to day. It's not going to write your term paper. It's not going to like diagnose your medical condition based on this photo of your blood work, but it will probably, and especially in the years to come, get better. Like, for example, anyone have a HomePod or you have Siri? You ever ask Siri something and Siri comes back with like a completely dumb response where you're like, my question wasn't even that hard and you can't answer it. Like, I'm trying to think of a good example. I can't think of the last time I did this, but it's like, how many liters are in 3 quarts or something? Like, I'm just asking for like a basic conversion. I'm cooking or something, and it's like she'll be like, well, according to about.com, blah blah blah. It's like you can't even do like something so basic. I think that these small, fast models will then eventually be able to run on our devices to be able to get us those kinds of answers from like our home assistant. So like easy stuff, normal stuff, day-to-day stuff. I think that's what they're going to do, and that's how they're going to change society.
Yeah, Rob, I agree. I think, one thing I'll add to that and what I'm excited about with things like, more the enhanced Siri AI would be understanding the context of what I'm trying to ask it to do because I have all this home automation, but I have to remember exactly like the room name or the light name or, what I'm trying to tell it to do, or it'll come back and be like, and Alexa's the same way. I've got probably too much of this junk at home, but maybe that's part of the problem. But, having a system that maybe could more intelligently understand what I'm trying to do and then do it on my behalf. If we can get there, I'd be pretty happy.
Right, like imagine your smart light is named bedroom lamp, and you say turn off the bedroom light. And bedroom light is not the same as bedroom lamp. An algorithmic interface that just is doing keyword matching can't know that you mean the lamp, not the light. And like I get into this too with my stuff where I'm like, I've had a bunch of different iPhones, and now my iPhone is like Robbie's iPhone 14 Pro Max. Like it's got like a name, and if I want to pair it with my Alexa, I have to actually open up my iPhone and like look and see like what is like the actual name of my phone because it's got something weird going on there. And if I could just say Alexa, like pair it with my phone, like wouldn't that be so much easier?
So basically, this would be like, if we could think about it, the average person, like the utility of these, like we were going to talk about a rabbit next, and like the utility of this type of thing, and how do you see yourself using this? It would kind of be a more intelligent Siri or Alexa type of thing,
Right. Like
where
imagine you can walk around like let's transition to rabbit and the humane pin for a second. Imagine you can walk around with your Echo and but and it's like and it's smarter like that kind of envision that as your life, and that might give you a sense of how you might use that device. So don't think of it as something sort of more magical than it is. It's only going to be useful for like, I think ultimately, there will be like a dozen things that people do really well with these devices. They don't have screens, they don't have UIs, they're kind of hard to um, do anything complex with. But like that's how I'm kind of thinking about it. Like if the vision that Alexa was supposed to like be actually existed, that's sort of the local language model that we're going to get, or like that's the products that are coming out now. Or and with some caveats, like I don't know if a lot of these devices connect to your Spotify and can play the song you want, or like whatever like Alexa can do today. But that's the vision I think behind some of these.
Go ahead, AP.
Yeah, I know Zach is in the audience who works on device inference. Zach, if you want to come up and you're the expert on this stuff, speak a little bit. No pressure, but just wanted to open up the invite.
Yeah, if you want to raise your hand so we can get you the mic and a request request the mic, and then we can go ahead and send it to you because it would help. And we were talking about this last week about like, well, I know a lot of people here have FOMO and they're trying to. Even I was kind of getting a little geeked looking at the R1. Like, wow, it looks really cool, but what am I really going to use it for? And that helps a lot, Rob, to think about it in that way, and people can make a decision on if it's something they're into having a lot of new tech, then sure. But the average person, do you think it'll be many people that are off this platform or in the real world that are using
No, no, no,
R1?
not
Yeah.
at all. Right now, and I'm an AI guy, and I love these tech, and I think it's really cool. But right now, the R1 is a status symbol. I don't think it's very useful. I think that the things you can do with your phone are superior in many ways. And so it's kind of like when you buy that expensive iPhone and it's like I'm not really using the full capability of this device, but when I hold it up to my ear and people see what color it is, they know that I got the expensive one and that I'm cool. Or like my Apple Watch. You know what I do? I use like the timer on my I have like a $600 watch that I use like the timer on. You could buy a $12 Casio or something to set a timer, and I'm like doing it on this like fancy watch, right? So it's not like we're actually going to get, I think, the full value. The other benefit here is that in order to figure out like how to make these products, you need to get a prototype out there in the world. You need to get people using it. You need to get feedback. You need to get hype. You need to build a market. And like, think about the first Meta Quest. It kind of sucked. There weren't that many games. They were really like kind of pixelated. I don't know if anybody bothered. Probably you didn't. But then we got to MetaQuest 2 and MetaQuest 3 and like where we're headed in the future. Now the world is like ready for these assisted reality devices, augmented reality devices, and what they can do, and we're like more open to it because they've been around for 10 years or something at this point, even though most people probably never even considered buying one until the pandemic or something like that. And so I think that the R1 is kind of like, think about when Tesla first made that car, or when Meta or Oculus at the time first released their headset, and you're like, this isn't, like, who's going to use this? That's sort of not the point. I think it can still be an amazing moment that we celebrate in AI, and that we were around to witness, even if it's like not a superior way to do the work that you could do on another device in many cases.
Well, what about wait, first, do you have the Meta Ray Bans, Rob?
I am I don't, because I've been fantasizing about getting LASIK eye surgery, and I keep thinking like if I buy yet another prescription like something, and then I go spend like 4,000 on my eyes just to like then go buy one with regular lens. But like of course it never happens, and then I should just have I should have ordered them a long time ago.
No,
Um,
that's cool because Matt was talking about it last week, and I think that was before they added the multimodal, more capabilities to it. So we were just wondering if anybody else had it that could speak to how it works. And he was saying that it was kind of slow, like the Llama 3 in there, but for being able to take pictures and photos and whatever else it can do, I guess we can save that. But we also have Web Sim. Wait, is it Web Sim or Web? What is this called?
Yeah,
Oh,
WebSim.
Web Sim.
Yeah,
Yeah, since it's 5:45 or it's 45 minutes in, so I did want to cover that. I was just kind of looking at that quickly, AP. But yeah, could you explain what that is?
yeah. So I think it is probably the coolest application of generative AI, at least in like a consumer product. And that's probably putting a little much too hype behind it. But the reason I say that is because you can essentially type in a browser, like, okay, so it's like a simulated browser, simulated internet. You go into the browser bar, you type in like, deforum.art, and you'll get a hallucinated deforum landing page. Same thing, you go to Craigslist.com, you get a hallucinated landing page. You can go to Craigslist.com, AP's like guitar, and then like a hallucinated landing page for AP's guitar trying to be sold on Craigslist. A lot of people have been doing really interesting stuff with this, doing anything from like embedding Doom, the game, into the browser. It's using like Claude Sonnet, I think, and for some reason it's like really good at being creatively hallucinative, or hallucinative is probably not even a word. But yeah, just essentially like making these really cool um, browser based things. And that thread that's pinned up by Olivia kind of summarizes a few of the really unique use cases. I think a lot of these like simulation based things using Claude or other large language models are going to be kind of like a big thing. But that's sort of my opinion. But yeah.
I'm putting that in the chat now because I just pulled up the website. That is interesting. It looks like an old school like AOL type of thing. I'm gonna put that in there.
So AP, does it actually generate the website and then you can use that, or is this like for ideation? I'm just trying to better understand what the
Yeah, so like right now the use case is purely like for entertainment. So you
okay.
generate a web page and it's functional, right? Like so people are making some that are audio reactive, people are making some that are games. But I can like totally see a world where, I have angrypenguin.com, and every time they go to it, they get a completely different like landing page, completely different like user interface. So yeah, I think it's like really creative. I think it's really fun, and like it's sort of getting a lot of hype right now in like the San Francisco like uh Twitter, like small Twitter circle. And I think it's only going to get more exciting. It's very early on.
Yeah, and
I
Oh,
this
think the
could be
project's only like 3 weeks old.
a way to prototype, a way to ideate. If you did AP's landing page for his new whatever product, and then it kind of came up with something, you might be able to then envision what that would look like in real life. And I could see, further down the line, we're exporting this code, we're cleaning it up, we're using it as the basis for something, and this is kind of giving us that glimpse into things. And Ali might be able to talk about this more, like from the Midjourney office hours this week. But there was this really interesting moment where, like, Midjourney is kind of on this multi-year trajectory to like the generative metaverse, and so this involves having to kind of like simulate all these things at once. And they're looking at how do we like in um, how do we get to a point where in real time we can create 3D objects and put them into a scene and manipulate that scene and basically have you in sort of an immersive virtual environment? Well, for right now, I wish I could remember the word that was used. It's like non-real time generation. Like we're not going to like generate a simulation around you in a full
I
holodeck
think
right
they
now.
said I think they said non-interactive, and then eventually it'll be interactive. If I remember.
Right, right. So
Yeah.
it's like yeah, we're kind of doing this, you're doing it slowly and deliberately now, but eventually you can see where the vision is going. And it's like we have to take these steps to get to that eventually. So we have to take the other step first. I think that while this is a toy and people might dismiss WebSim, that it's actually like the shape of things to come. And we're getting a glimpse into what the world might be like in 5 years. Um, like what normal might be in a way. We're getting like the very first glimpse into that. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, and I think it's yeah, exactly. Like it's a glimpse into what the world will look like, and especially if you assume that the models are just going to continue to follow like scaling laws and continuously get better with like more compute, more data. Like something like this becomes like even more better as the LLMs get better as well. So yeah, I think like in my opinion, it's like one of the cool use cases where I'm like, wow, that's like actually like pretty different, pretty awesome, and just wanted to share it. But yeah.
no, thank you, because I'm sitting here playing with it. That's why I'm kind of lost because I'm looking at it. Once you go and you do have to log in with a Google account, but then you just click on that and log in the browser on the WebSim. And then this is pretty cool because I will, a word to the wise, if you go on there, pick the you can pick a page to go to, and I picked the how to use WebSim for beginners, and it wants you to like that, and it has a little heart beside the URL and the browse in the browser within the WebSim. But it explains to you how to understand the basic structure and how to add parameters to it. And basically, you just your URL is a prompt, a text prompt, and you keep adding different things to that as part of the query strings. And like it even has example for like cyberpunk and things like that, where you keep adding like the base URL is https websim.ai, and then you forward slash, and you start adding like the theme, the purpose, target, setting. That's pretty cool. No, thank you for now I have something to do later on. 'Cause
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
like, yeah, like in a world where I've seen a lot of these like UI tools where it's like, type and then you get a website, but all of them are like beta. I'm like, I want to like try that thing. Except for Versal V0, which is also another really great design tool. But I think this is more like entertainment fun. So yeah, I had a lot of fun playing with it.
Well, absolutely. So I guess we're down to the last 10 minutes or so, 8 minutes. So since we were talking about Midjourney, Rob and Ali and I were talking about the new style random and how in office hours and what the purpose of that is, because it's part of their experimenting for future advanced tools like what you're talking about, Rob. So we were Ali and I were talking about how we're kind of addicted to the style random because of for me it's almost like the style tuner where you had all those different images you could pick from to create your style code. And it seems to me like every time I was spinning the wheel, basically re-rolling the style random, I would get one of those styles that would have been on the style code, you know, for the style tuner. And now they have changed it some so that in case anybody isn't aware, if you type in sref random, it will generate a number. And that's like the style code for that. I don't know if I'm mixing up the words, Ali, but it's going to generate a code. So then every time you re-roll that, you're going to get that same style. So if you want to keep changing the style and just to see what random style you have, you will need to type it in again or enter style sref random again. But it's cool because when you find these codes that you like, then you basically have a style code right there without having to go create one on a separate page. And you can just put that number, it generates a number, and it seems to be infinite. With the number will be each number is a different style. And then you can attach that to any of your prompts. So you can bring that style in.
Right. So the important thing here, if you go and play with this later, is it's the style reference, the dash dash sref, SREF. So if you go and do dash dash style space random, you're not going to get anything. You're going to be like, ugh, they lied to me. This doesn't work. Style reference random. It's a great way if you have like a simple prompt to see it in a bunch of different things. Like my favorite thing to do is put in a prompt that kind of has minimal stylistic instruction, and then on Discord you can, like, how you can press up to get the previous thing that you wrote like in the bar again. So you can just like you go imagine blah 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 style like sref random enter, and then you just press up enter up enter up enter up enter up enter, and I'll do it like 10 times, and then I'll see the same prompt in like 10 different styles. And it's wild. Like I was doing this for some course graphics. I'm working on a course on AI thought prompting, which is like writing prompts that are self-improving, that sort of think and reason. And so I was like, I typed in like artificial intelligence thinking, like as a sref random, and I got all these different versions of what that could look like, from like a very photorealistic half android half human with like something going on near the brain, to some real abstract art that was just like kind of crazy lines, gears and stuff that was magical, stuff that looked like it was made out of lace, like just all these different things. And if you don't know what kind of art you need for a project, it's a really great way to like expand your thinking, and give you like a jumping off point where you don't have to have the full concept. So I love this. I think in terms of the fun that I have from playing with Midjourney, like I get more fun out of Midjourney than like going to the movies, probably been playing video games. You know, this is like it's so satisfying, and just it takes the discovery aspect of Midjourney to a whole new level.
Yeah, for me, it kind of shows like the range of Midjourney. It's just crazy because some of these styles that I'm running like a dot art portrait prompt, and I think I have one posted in a few minutes, and it's just amazing. I must have gotten 60 different styles from that particular prompt, and it's just like how would it even get this style? How did it even decide to translate this? But it's just amazing. Go ahead, AP.
Yeah, I saw David mentioned, or somebody mentioned, that Midjourney's like goal in the next like month or two is to have essentially like a fine-tuned. I don't know if it's probably going to be like a LoRa or a model for every user. And I was like, dang, that is freaking cool. You know, like the technical implementation of that probably is going to be nuts for them, and that's probably why they're taking so long to ship it. But yeah, I'm a big fan of what Midjourney's doing. Like it's super crazy,
Go ahead,
super
Ali,
cool.
because you've been paying a very close attention to that with your wonderful summaries.
Yes. So the style or model personalization. So right now everybody's getting the default model that Midjourney is, and then we can obviously manipulate it in one way or the other. But the personalization that they're working on is specifically so that you can then have a style that is more reflective of you. Now, that's what 90 million people that are in Midjourney server on Discord or whatever. So that's a lot of different possibilities. And they have had some challenges because when they've been testing it with the mods and their testers, like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So they are really trying to figure out where is it, whatever the sweet spot is, so that then it works the way that they are imagining it to work for each individual user. And as far as I still know, and the plan is that each person can have one personalization. Now, you can turn it on and off, meaning you don't have to use it. But then that just opens up a whole nother world because every one of us can have our own personalization. And my understanding also is that so I could then use Heather's and Heather could use mine. So we can like swap these things as well. So it isn't just for you, right? So it is another whole new world in there.
Kind of
So
like training models in there. Go ahead. I cut somebody off. Good.
I'm gonna make a bold prediction here, and not everyone's gonna like it. I think this feature is gonna flop really hard. Um, and I also think it's awesome and exciting for a lot of folks like us in the room, but I think it's gonna flop, and here's why. And you guys tell me if you agree or not. Models like Midjourney and ChatGPT and all these models, there's like a certain familiarity you get with them. And after you spend some time with like Midjourney 6.1 or whatever it is, you start to kind of know what you get from certain words, like what to do, what kind of works well, what sentence structure, where to put the commas. You spend time with these things and you develop an expertise that's sort of model specific. And it tends to, with Midjourney, when they release like 6.0, 6.1, 6.2, it tends to be similar prompting styles, get similar results within those, although not always. And then when they release like version 7 or whatever, sometimes things change dramatically. And that knowledge of how to get it to do the thing that you want is very valuable. Like I find in my life, sometimes it's just super valuable, and it's not even something you actively think about. But I think that if I were to get into Heather's or Allie's model, if I started to do things that were outside of kind of what Heather was normally doing or what Allie was normally doing, that I would get frustrated because it wasn't necessarily behaving in the same way, like when you sort of train a model to operate a little bit differently. I don't know for sure, but I think that people will dislike the lack of control and the lack of predictability, and they'll tend to stick to what they know and what they can kind of count on. Could be wrong, but we'll see.
I
I
think
think that.
the
Oh, go ahead, Blaine.
I was just going to say, I think the flip side of that, I don't disagree, Rob. I think the flip side of that is it might, by giving everybody their own, kind of custom LoRa, whatever they want to call it, maybe that will open up the door for it to kind of learn how the user, operates, and so that it'll kind of learn what you like, what you don't like, and then kind of evolve over time with the user. And because I'm probably never going to use Heather's account, right? I mean, I'm going to use mine. Um, just playing devil's advocate, I can, I'm wondering if maybe that's the purpose of it. Although I kind of enjoy, I always actually liked 5.2 actually the best because I got really good at 5.2 and then 6
So
came
good.
out
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, I can't get the same stuff I was doing on 5.2.
I mean, I think that the biggest use case for stuff like this um, is stuff that maybe people don't want to acknowledge, but it's like maybe I'm a person of a certain race and I want the my generations to be more often, people with a diverse background or something, versus like another user who maybe likes the current setup, or maybe I like sexier outfits and so it learns to like show more cleavage and I don't have to try and hack the prompt by saying like lingerie core or whatever the current like hack is for making your Midjourney characters more sexy, or the opposite, right? Maybe I do like kids book illustrations and Midjourney characters are too sexy, and I'm trying to do an 11-year-old. Like, why are you sexualizing like this child because you're training data? Like, there's so many things like that where I think it. Those are the pieces of the lore that I think will be most valuable to a lot of people. And the other kind of style stuff is going to be maybe not as much. Also with anime and those kinds of styles, I think there's a big thing there. Like people kind of have a preferred animation style, and that could also be quite huge.
Go ahead, Ali.
I totally forgot what I was going to say, but it was along the. Oh, now I remember because I got distracted. So one of the things that David has said over and over again in the office hours in this last year is that the majority of users of Midjourney are male, and that's quite drastically larger than females. And when the models come out, they are somewhat or to some degree skewed to those preferences. But what they are seeing that, for example, female preferences are different from male preferences as to how they would like the model to be. Now, I'm very general with this whole thing, right? Like there's many categories of female users and ethnicities. And he's also said people, for example, in Japan, a completely different vibe than what we would have here, for example. But then there's much nuance there. So one of the things that at least as I've understood it, is this personalization is supposed to help move away from that quite male dominant standard model that Midjourney currently is, which would allow us to then deviate from that. And I certainly am noticing things that I am not fan of, and I have to basically prompt to move away from those particular, you know, default stereotypical or whatever you want to call this model that it is right now. So that is one of the things that he's brought up over and over and over again. And they keep on also saying that they are doing more research in this and pulling statistics and data to see what they find, these kind of discoveries, so that they can then do better in moving forward. But I do also acknowledge that doing this type of personalization, I don't know exactly how that works. Obviously, I mean, only they know, but I can see how this is incredibly complicated. And will it work? I don't know. The jury is going to be out on it. Will I actually use it as much? I don't know that either, because if I need to deviate from the model, I will probably prompt away from it so that it doesn't work that way. Having said that, maybe that also has something to do with moving towards this real time, non real time world building at the end of the day. So to be seen.
That's a good point. I think like once the even with like the style codes and things like that, once we got our feel of it, we kind of just went back to the normal what we were doing before, and even for the character reference and the style reference, just the for the uploading the image and using that image prompt. That is probably, it just depends on what you're doing. So I guess hopefully they will still, maybe to address people that have, mastered prompting a certain way, because I certainly feel you on that. I want to see a certain thing, and that's why I spend so much time studying prompts. And the effect on the results is that we will have the option to have a default, like the default model to go back to, because we'll know what to expect and how to prompt for what we want. So
Right.
that'll
Um,
be cool.
the I Okay, I'm going to walk back what I said earlier because I've now seen the future again in this conversation. So thank you guys. It's all about discovery. So if we look at a site like Civit.ai, which is a place where you can find like custom tuned stable diffusion models, like for different anime styles or different erotic content or like whatever your fancy is, like it's probably on there. Um, One of the original ones that I used it for was like just getting better photorealism from like Stable Diffusion 1.5 or Stable Diffusion XL. People are like tuning Stable Diffusion, and you could go find the model and like get a better looking model on your computer than the like out of the box one. So this is a website that makes it easy to discover other styles, basically. In this case, you're getting the whole model. But Midjourney doesn't have that. They don't really have a good way to see like what's the trending, like most popular, personalized model that everybody's using for this result. And what Civit allows you to do is like, you'll go and you'll be like, oh, this is like this kind of anime style. Like for example, there's cell shaded anime that like, looks like an illustration, and then there's semi 3D anime where you get like it's not cell shading anymore. Now you get this kind of like kind of looks realistic but kind of looks like anime, like, so there's all these different models like that, and you can kind of look at the aesthetics of different ones and go, oh, I like this style, like this is going to do well for the project that I'm working on, like, or this is the style that I want. And there's just no discovery, in my opinion, or it's not good enough, and it's not like community driven and metrics driven enough. And what'll make this successful, I think, is if there's a way for people to discover not just like what's Heather's model, which I'm sure will be great, but um, like if it's like I'm doing artwork for my D&D game for my like and I want a fantasy oriented like D&D style whatever, like I'm gonna need to like go and kind of like find that. I can't just like, and right now there's no way to do that. So I think that'll be the key to whether or not this ends up working.
Well, I love the opportunity to try. I try to use my prompts on different models and different platforms, because it helps me, fine tune them even better, so that I know that Midjourney, what you get from there is not necessarily what you're going to get from other ones. And I encourage people to use this, like Civit. You can go on there for free and test models and run. I think you can still do that for free. If you see different types of stable diffusion models you want to try, just to see what kind of results you get. But it also helps you fine tune it. And I see it kind of the same way as, speaking to Chat GPT or any LLM, what you're putting in it and asking, it's just that language. So I'm excited about these things. And I guess we will see what we're talking about by next week or the week after. But I will stop it now. I'm going to get done since I promised that I was going to start trying to hold it to about an hour. And thank you all, because this was a great conversation. And Rob, thanks for joining. I'm so glad we missed you for a while here. So I appreciate everybody coming out. I'm not going to go around and plug everybody, but put your stuff in the chat, please. If you have anything happening or going on, please put that in there so that everybody can share that and see it and go through. I'm going to try to go through and respond to some of these comments here. I really appreciate it. And everybody, please have a great weekend. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone. Thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.